Welcome back, everyone. With 3 Air Force bases in San Antonio, it's only fitting that we have a squadron dedicated to the Tuskegee Airmen. The 99th Flying Training Squadron at Randolph Air Force Base works with the San Antonio chapter of the Tuskegee Airmen to acknowledge and preserve their legacy, and Brandon Roddy has their story.
This was really a chance to connect to my own history, being African American myself, and just trying to understand how it all came about, and learning finally that really we're standing on the shoulders of those guys who really pioneered the efforts of African Americans in the military, in the U.S. military.
The Tuskegee Airmen were a group of Americans, the first African Americans, that were going to be taught how to fly for the United States military. The 99th is actually our heritage squadron, so the 99th is one of the first 4 original Tuskegee Airmen squadrons. That actually was the 99th, the 100th, the 301st, and the 302nd. Those 4 squadrons together made up what we refer to as the 332nd Fighter Group, and collectively they were known as the Red Tails.
We collaborate quite a bit with the 99th, the 99th being the successor squadron of the original squadron, the Tuskegee Airmen. And we always associate with them in the fact that we both maintain the legacy of the Tuskegee Airmen.
A lot of the stories, of course, go to what we refer to as the Red Tails, because their story is quite exciting. And of that 16 to 19,000 that were actually trained, they made up men, women. There were white aviators as well as the African Americans. Also, throughout that time, there was not just pilots. Of course, we associate the story of the Tuskegee Airmen a lot of the times with just the aviators, but there were weather officers, there were intelligence officers, there was maintenance personnel.
These gentlemen and women, Tuskegee Airmen, were involved in changing the nation. We really try to emphasize that and its importance in American history.
During the war years, there was between 16 and 19,000 airmen that were trained at those 2 airfields. To this day, we've identified through documentation just over 14,000 airmen that were trained. And of those 14,000, all of those are referred to as documented original Tuskegee Airmen.
Our primary mission for the San Antonio chapter of Tuskegee Airmen is to preserve the legacy of the Tuskegee Airmen, make sure everybody knows as much about them and all of the background story of it, the history, and also to motivate youth to learn the lessons and values of the Tuskegee Airmen, which are very valuable for them and for American society as a whole.
When you walk down the halls of the 99th, of course, you see the names. You see Buster Hall, you see names like Cogs. Many of these heroes, of course, are living today, and they're living in the San Antonio area, and the impact that they have, the inspiration that they have of perseverance, of service before self. All of those are values that we try to bring to our instructor pilots here as we train them to go out and train the next generation of Air Force pilots.
The Big Give gives us an opportunity to make sure we're adequately funded for these events and programs that we have, whether we go out and speak, have scholarships, or whether we conduct the STEM-A program. There's always a funding tail to all of that. All of these things just need support. That's what the Big Give will let us do.
These stories transcend any specific unit. This is not simply a 99th Flying Training Squadron story. This is not an Air Force story. This is an American story.